Hi. It's been a bit of a shit week for me, fantasy wise. This is what the forecasts look like for my team. So on my x-axis, I've got the game date. On the y-axis, the cumulative points, and um, my team's name is Top Notch. I didn't actually call it that. That's the ESPN default. I wasn't very creative, and I'm playing Sean's team called Nug Life. And yeah, so. It got to Tuesday this week and I just had to call it. I just had to be like, no, I'm not going to win. Because Sean had like close to 900 points. So this would have been his forecast, basically. Um, but he did really well on this first day, had close to 400. And then by his second day, he was up here. And so this curve is just quite a lot higher. That's what the prediction would have looked like. And then for my team on the other side of things, I had a really bad first day. I think I only had like, I don't know, 100 and something points. And then also not super great on the second day. So this is what my forecast started looking like on day two. Oops, sorry, I'm not that good. It should be like parallel to these lines. And so I already knew I was going to be chasing a pretty big total towards this end of the week here. Like, um, this is pretty substantial to try and catch up. He was well and truly had the better team for this week. Chasing this amount, that seems unlikely. So I just called it and was like, no, that's not going to happen. Um, yeah, so this was, yeah, basically a 500 point plus deficit on this day. And like, I think a 500 point is a full roster's total in our league. So it just wasn't, I didn't think it was going to be possible. To be fair, he's had a couple of players out with injuries. I've also had injuries. But and I've clawed it back a little bit, like maybe 50 points a day for the last few days, but nowhere near close. So given up, not happening this week. So I really turned my attention to earlier this week, um, pretty quickly. So this is what that roster looks like. And I'm not going to go through the full roster today, but I am picking up players with the intent of giving myself advantage for like early this coming week. And I think I said before, Miami has 2 games, so 5 games next week. So that's a huge advantage. So that's, I've already picked up a Miami player. Um, I'm making sure to avoid Charlotte players because they don't have any games. Memphis is the same. Like New Orleans Pelicans also don't want any of them. And no Orlando's. They've only got 2 games next week anyway. So you wouldn't want Orlando players. But there are a lot of like back-to-backs early next week. So I've been picking up those players instead. I took a look at Golden State. They've got 4 games. There's one player in my pool with like maybe a 30-point average who give me 60 points over these 2 days, maybe. Not a guarantee. There's no one really in the Clippers in floating around our pool worth picking up. I would say over the back-to-back here, your pool might be different. Um, Philly has back-to-back. I've also had a look. No one I'm super excited about there. I've picked up a Phoenix player who are going to play back-to-back games. And similarly had a look at Utah and San Antonio Spurs. And like there are no one really for Utah. If I wanted to take a swing, maybe a bit of a chancy move, I could. Spurs, no. So that's the options for next week if you want to pick someone up with a back-to-back. Golden State, Clippers, Miami is definitely worth picking up because they got 5 games. Um, Philly, Phoenix, Spurs, and Utah for the very beginning of next week. That's where the best games are in terms of pickups. And I'll show you one other plot um, because I made it and I thought it was pretty cool and interesting when I was trying to take a look at why I was getting done this week. Um, which is basically this one here. So the really big change from last week to this week is I've started comparing all the teams now together. And I'm able to do that because I've cleaned up my code. That's what I've been working on for the last few weeks. And so again, this is Sean's team here. And you can just see that he has systematically gotten a bit lucky, I would say, and he's picked up players who are all above um, this like 40-point average here. So this guy's gone already. He's traded him in and picked someone else up. Um, this is a really good pickup. This was Peyton Watson, I think. Um, yeah, Peyton Watson. And so you can see he had Luca this week, 5 games. That was always going to be a battle. Um, this is the rest of his roster. Cooper Flag's out at the moment, but that's okay. But they're all performing above their long-term averages as well, which is nice. Maybe except for these guys down here. If you look at my team, um, these guys have not been performing as well recently. And Anthony Edwards was in for me at the beginning of the week, but is now scratched and out. Yeah, so that's a bit of a point of frustration. This was a forced pickup towards the end of last week. I didn't really want to do it. I just thought it gave me best options because it was a back-to-back game. And I was hoping he'd do a bit better, and he's been terrible this week. That's not the reason I lost. I lost because Sean's team is just has the right game schedule plus the right strength at the moment to be really competitive. Um, yeah, but it is interesting when you look at like who's actually available in the whole pool to pick up. Um, so as I said, this like magic line is basically the 40-point average and people long-term average. And anyone on this side, they've been picked up. They and you can see they're all colored, they're all on someone's teams, and anyone on this side is like available. You can pick them up if you want to. And there are a few exceptions to that. Like here, Fern threw Anthony Davis back into the pool this week, which was probably pretty big. I think she's a bit sick of him. Um, yeah, and he's out injured for a while. So that's why he's back in the pool again. He's in reserve. That's why he's not highlighted. And similarly, this guy's in reserve. Both of these guys are on Showtime team. And then, like, I've already picked Jamie up for next week. Or admittedly, he's injured, so he's just sitting in my in reserve, but I don't care this week. So hopefully he's good for next week to play all 5 games, or at least some of them. I haven't picked Ware up because yeah, his minutes have gone down, and you can see like his like short-term average is really low at 16 at the moment. I don't really want to risk it. Isaiah Stewart, I had him earlier this week, so I've got Jalen Duren on my team, and he's been in reserve, so I've had him picked up his minutes while he was healthy. Um, this is a bit inflated because he's really only played 1 game over the last 7 days. I've also had him on my team this week, but again, he hasn't performed quite as well as this week. Um, yeah, so a bit of fun. Nice to see these things come together. Um, I'll do a review of the full fantasy roster later, but I just thought I'd share these with you. And actually, I'll show you the rest of the pool before I go. It's quite interesting. Like I played Lyle last week, and I had to make some hard changes um, to kind of make sure I won at the end of last week. That really didn't put me in a good position for this week. I've been really unhappy about it. Um, but he's also beating Ben, who's been the top tier in the last 2 weeks this week with making 0 changes. And so he just has a very strong team. He had a good draft day. He's really not been doing anything with his team at all, and it's kind of enough to for him to get by. It's a bit frustrating, I'll be honest. So he's going to beat Ben this week just because of how the game schedule works and other bits and pieces. Um, these guys are playing each other, and you can see that they've been pretty close all week. Um, he'll pull away the end of the week. Again, Anne and Art are playing. He's going to beat her this week. Um, yeah, and then there's Sean and I. And you can see Sean is just the top team for the week. Um, well and truly top team. Yeah. And I'm in the middle of the pack this week. So anyway, it's nice to know because sometimes you're like, oh, like why isn't my team winning? Like, is it something I've done? And sure, sometimes it is something you've done, but other times it's just the game schedule and you get a dud deal and you just have to like just roll with the punches. So yeah, that's it.